What is up everyone, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video we're going to be talking about a topic that I know is super important to a lot of you guys, and that's how to rank up fast in Fortnite Chapter 5 Season 3. As with any other season in ranked, ranks have reset and everybody is on that grind to get back to Unreal, or perhaps even make it to Unreal for the first time if you haven't made it there yet. And in today's video we're going to be talking all about that. I'm going to be giving you guys the best game mode, the best strategy, and basically a bunch of tips that you're going to need to rank up super quickly, improve at the game, and make yourself an absolute demon in ranked. Before we get into it, be sure to drop a like if the video helps you out, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want to see more content just like this in the future, and as well as that guys, if you want to show some extra support, it's always super appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you, it only takes a couple seconds to type in, and it seriously does help me out a ton. As always, a giant thank you to everyone who uses my code, you guys are awesome. But with that said and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So starting off today's video, and the first topic we're going to go over, we're going to begin by talking about the best game mode that you can use to rank up this season. As with most seasons in ranked, there's really not a particular mode that's going to gain you a ton of rank super quickly. Like pretty much no matter what mode you play, it's going to be a grind and it's going to take some time. And to be honest, Epic has actually done a pretty good job of balancing out each mode, so it's pretty even between them all, at least in terms of how much rank you get relative to how good you do. With that said, I'm going to recommend honestly that you play whichever mode you feel like you can perform in the most consistently. So for those of you who have a really good team by your side, this might be duos, trios, or squads, particularly if you have a team that you play tournaments with or something like that. And for those of you who perform best as an individual player or don't have consistent teammates, then you may want to emphasize solos. But overall, that's really just going to depend on which mode you feel the most confident in. In general, and on a slightly unrelated note, I do recommend everybody put some level of priority on solos, or at least plays a decent amount of solos, and that's simply because it's the most reliable game mode. Since you don't need anybody else, you can always queue into it right away, and it's generally just considered to be better practice since it's all one-on-one fights and it's all your own decision making. So in essence, there's really nobody else that you can kind of lean on to carry you through it. You got to do your own thing. But circling back to what we were talking about, when it comes to purely ranking up, focus on whichever game mode you feel the most confident in, whether that's solos, duos, trios, or squads. So getting into the next part of the video, and what we want to talk about is early game strategy. So for the next few parts of the video, what I'm going to be doing is basically going through early game, mid game, and then late game, and kind of just running you through some different things that you can do in each part of the game to maximize your success. And so with that, the first one we're going to discuss is going to be early game, and the first part of that is going to be where exactly you should land. As you may or may not know, Epic sets up ranked mode in a way where kills are worth more as the game goes on. So surviving early game is absolutely critical if you want to rank up fast. Getting a bunch of kills in early game doesn't really do much for you, but getting a lot of kills in late game, or even the later part of the mid game, is going to do an absolute ton. That doesn't mean that you absolutely have to land quiet though, since you do also want to set yourself up for a good mid and late game afterwards. So you kind of got to balance the two. You don't want to play overly aggressive off spawn, but you do want to go somewhere where you can get good stuff. One thing to consider when it comes to your drop spot and your early game strategy is going to be which game mode you're into. In team modes, it's going to be way more practical to land at a POI or a larger split. That way you can set yourself up with better loot, and even if you have to wipe out one or two teams, it's way better than being stuck with shambles loot from a quieter area. In team modes, I recommend you land at a POI for the sake of loot. The exact POI is going to be up to you, but it's worth trying out a variety to see what works best. And when it comes to solos, in solos, I'm going to recommend you land mostly at unnamed spots. This is simply because the POIs are going to be hotly contested pretty much every game, and there's going to be a lot of third parties around. If you like to play a bit more aggressive and you want to maximize your loot, then you could also consider landing at an unnamed spot next to a larger POI, and then you can rotate into actually third party the other players. So that basically allows you to get safer kills, still get some kills off spawn, and still get that loot from the big POI, except it raises your odds of survival dramatically. However you decide to approach it, take some time to try out some different spots and some different rotation strategies, and basically just see what provides you the most consistent survival with good loot, materials, and HP. That way you can not only survive early game, but you can also set yourself up for a good remainder of the game. Moving on from that, and I do have a couple more basic tips for early game which I do want to include here. First of these is going to be, if you're going to land at a POI or near one, focus on being the third party. To do this, you're going to probably want to land near the edge of the POI, and if you're contested by multiple teams or a lot of other solos, you basically want to wait for others to get into fights first before you get involved. That way you can get way easier kills and survive more often, because getting a kill on somebody that just got out of a fight probably has less HP, less materials. It's going to be way easier than going in a straight up one-on-one fight against somebody who's probably a good player. Alongside that, when you're in early game, focus on looting up and getting HP and materials as fast as you can once you land. In ranked, running out of mats is pretty much a guaranteed guaranteed death if you're in build mode, and having a good amount of shield is going to set you ahead significantly. So try to find a loot route that's going to get you all that stuff fast. You can do this via pure trial and error, but you can also use the website Fortnite.gg, which is a fantastic tool for seeing every chest spawn, floor loot, etc. Setting yourself up early is going to be absolutely huge for early game survival and should allow you to get some pretty safe kills too. So moving on from that, guys, and the next part of the video we're going to be getting into is mid game. In the mid game, within pretty much any ranked match, you should have a couple goals in mind, and the factors near the top of that list are going to be optimizing your rotations and getting safe kills. When it comes to rotations, in ranked, I generally recommend you play the dead side of zone, also known as the side of the zone that people are not rotating into. What this does is it actually allows you to get into fights, but you're not going to get third party nearly as often. Since these parts of the zone still have other players, it's just way less congested and way less populated. Fundamentally, this basically means staying further from the center of the map and playing in the areas that people are not directly rotating into from the major POIs. When it comes to fighting in mid game, which is a pretty important topic, you're going to want to focus really heavily on ending your fights quickly. Getting stuck in a long drawn out fight and getting third partied is how most good players die in mid game. Ending fights quickly comes down to a couple of factors. Of course, having good piece control is important to know, and if you're not practicing piece control, I definitely recommend you do that. Getting pre-fight damage and getting the jump on your opponent is also super helpful though, and a lot of that comes from positioning yourself well and not putting yourself in open areas where it's easy to get beamed. In order to practice ending fights fast, I recommend you hop into some speed realistic 1v1s. These types of 1v1s are based in creative, and they basically have one player pushing the other player, so the player that's being pushed is going to be placed in a box and the person pushing is going to be outside of it. This pretty much pushes you right into action with the other player and forces you into a situation where you have to go for a fast-paced fight, and this kind of helps you do the strategy that you want to carry over to ranked. The map I recommend is by the creator Ken Beans, and I'll go ahead and put the code up on screen right now. Spending some time in this map is going to help you in a lot of ways and help you become a way better fighter, both overall and specifically for the types of fights that you're going to find in ranked. And of course, another great way to practice fighting, I can't be leaving this one out, is simply to push for fights in ranked. So many people get caught up in the idea of ranking up that they end up performing worse because they're scared to fight. There's something to be said for not playing overly aggressive, not going for every single player you see all the time, but you also don't want to play like a little B-word. Playing aggressive is less beneficial for purely ranking up, obviously, because you're going to be getting into more fights and die more often, but it's going to help you a lot when it comes to improving in fights. So don't be afraid to play some more aggressive games once in a while to improve your fighting and learn from your mistakes. If you can do that, you're going to see some huge progress, and even if in the short term it makes you rank down a little bit, in the long term you're going to be so much better at the game, and of course in turn that's going to make you rank up. Finally, guys, getting into the final part of the game, and we've got the notorious late game. This section is going to be pretty short because honestly late game is fundamentally very similar to mid game and ranked. There are a couple of things I want to mention. In ranked, it's really a mixed bag as to how many people are going to be alive at this point, but the fundamentals for a more or less stacked game are pretty much going to be the same throughout. First off, in late game you want to also focus extremely heavily on your rotations. Focus on keeping good position, ideally somewhere near high ground. Best case scenario is just high ground on the whole lobby. That way you can set yourself up for some easy kills. Also, when it comes to rotations, you want to try to rotate as early as you possibly can. That way you can look behind you for people that are in shambles. Another key part of late game is going to be refreshes, which are basically kills you gain HP, loot, and materials from. You'll find a lot of kills simply by staying ahead of the zone, having good position, and looking behind you to basically find people that messed up on those fundamentals. Those are the easiest ones to kill. Overall though, when it comes to late game, those are pretty much the main things to focus on, and if you follow everything we talked about, then you should be in a really good spot to consistently rank up. So far in this video, we've gone over a lot of stuff. We went over the best game mode, the best strategies for early, mid, and late game, and I want to wrap it up by talking about one of the most important things you can do to improve this game. If you guys want to rank up, my last tip for you all is to focus on VOD reviewing. If you're not familiar with the concept, VOD reviewing is simply the act of watching back your games. When you do this, you want to take note of what you do right and wrong and what you can do better in your future games to perform better, whether that's related to fighting, rotations, overall strategy, your early game, or whatever else it may be. The possibilities are basically endless, but it's basically a reflection on your past games to see what you can do better. Another option you can add in is something called third-person VOD reviews, which basically refers to watching a pro's ranked games to see what they do different from you and what parts of their strategy you can use in your own strategy. Some good pros and content creators are people like Polarized, Reet, Asian Jeff, Jivin TV, Ken Beans, or pretty much anyone else you can find. Basically, you want to find someone who's really good at ranked and whose playstyle you want to kind of replicate in some areas, and take notes on what they do that you don't, and basically different things that you see being successful for them that you can try out in your own gameplay. This is going to help you a lot if you do it consistently, and it can really open your eyes to strategies and moves that you otherwise wouldn't have known. So I'm definitely going to recommend you guys start doing that. But with all that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to rank up super fast in Fortnite Chapter 5 Season 3. Overall, we covered a lot of stuff in this video, and hopefully it helps you guys out. If you found the video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want to see more content just like this in the future. And as always, guys, it's super appreciate it if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. As always, a giant shout out to everyone who uses it. You guys are awesome, and I really do appreciate you a lot. And finally, guys, just let me know down in the comments what videos you guys want to see next. As I told y'all last time, I'm trying to crank out more videos this season, so keep the ideas coming because I'm liking them and I'm taking note of them. And who knows, maybe if you leave a comment, you'll see your video idea soon. But with that said, guys, thank you all for watching this video. Good luck getting to Unreal this season, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.